thank you. Well, morning everybody, and welcome to Community Safety Committee. And thank you for coming along as well. We're just about Cora, so it's much appreciated. So the first item is apologies for absence. So just for the record,
we have apologies, Chair, from Councillor Jodie Stoll and Councillor Nick Rain.
Okay, thank you. And does anyone have any declarations of interest? No. So now, before we go on to the minutes of the previous meeting, I just want to mention that we have today here at Highfields a Healthy Minds Staff Network event, and they're having a coffee morning to celebrate the first anniversary of the Healthy Minds Network and World Mental Health Day, and it's also the reopening of the new pond area here. Now, I don't know whether you know, did you know they've got a pond here?
Yes, we went to see it last time.
Right, yes. Have you seen the pond?
No.
It's fantastic. They're outside, literally out round back here somewhere outside. They've got a little sort of rest area.
Can I look after the meeting?
Well, this is what I'm leading up to, because what I'm asking us all to do is, if we can spare a little while after this meeting, can we go along and meet the people, meet them, and have a look at the pond? And that if the weather stays dry, it's all going to happen outside by the pond. But if it starts raining, they're going to have the coffee morning inside. So just thought I'd mention that. So it's a bonus for being here today. So thank you for that. So minutes of the previous meeting held on the 13th of June. Are we all happy with them?
Yeah.
Okay. So there did we have anything to follow up on? Yes, one of the items here we've got on today's agenda anyway. We agreed to receive a report on reducing unwanted fire signals, and we also noted the other points in that meeting. So that will move us on then straight to the first item, which is the service delivery performance report. Now, this is quite a big report, as you will have seen. So if it's all right, if you're all happy, I'm proposing to sort of break it down into 5 sections when we come to discussion. So, for example, the first section will be on response, second section on community safety, then fire protection, then reducing demand, and the joint audit and inspection. So what we'll do is we'll go through the presentation of each of those separately, and then any points and questions pick up at the end of each one, if that's all right. So Layla, if you want to lead us in on this, please.
Thank you, Chair. So this is the performance report, which covers Q1 data, so April to June this year. My brief from Damien indicated that members had previously asked for national comparisons to the data where that's available, so that's been included through the report where we have it. So I'll pass us over to Andy. He's going to take us up to section 2.23, and then we'll pause for questions and then move on to the other sections, if that's okay.
Thanks, you.
Thanks,
Okay,
Andy.
thank you.
Okay, so starting with response then. So this report covers Q1, so the period so basically 1st of April through to the end of June. I think the key thing at the start is we've had a very busy start to the year, very, very busy. We've had 3,320 incidents, which is basically very close to a 25% increase in the same period compared to last year. If the increase carries on like that, we will attend approximately like 13,500 incidents this year, which will make it one of the busiest years for a very, very long time. This increase, of course, it's been really driven by a significant increase in fires. We've had 77% increase in fires, 91% of those being deemed as being deliberate, 64% of those being deemed as 64% of the increase being deemed as accidental. Compared to last year, those increases are clearly quite significant, and they can very much be attributed to the weather. This increase has really been driven by the very hot and very dry spring period. We've also had a small increase in special service calls and also a small increase in false alarms, but the vast increase in fires is literally related to the weather and the hot dry spell. Figure 1, which is the first chart, shows the monthly comparison of the average number of incidents in the last 3 completed years, which really just indicates and highlights what I've just said around the increase, but how high above the average it is for this time of year. Breakdown in incident types can also be seen in figure 2. This shows the incidents attended over the last 12 months. False alarms and special service calls have averaged 434 and 245 respectively, which is fairly standard. But you can see that big spike in fires that we have, which has actually led that in April 25. It's the first time that fires have outnumbered false alarms since the heat wave we had in August 2022. Figure 3 shows a breakdown of incidents by district in Q1. City of Nottingham experiencing the most, Rushcliffe experiencing the least. And that chart is fairly common. You know, that split of incidents is fairly common across the districts. No massive surprises or change there. As you know, we classify incidents by priority type. So our priority 1 incidents are those that we deem to be the most serious. So these are ones that pose an immediate threat to human life, pose a risk of severe human injury, and where we know that our intervention could potentially save life and reduce risk. P2 incidents, the next serious priority level, pose serious hazard and a high risk threat to either the environment, society, property or heritage. And our P3 incidents, they pose a potential hazard to human life, the environment and so on, but they are confirmed as a low risk. So what we've seen is when we compare the incidents by priority type in Q1 24-25 to Q1 this year, the biggest increase there has been the less serious P3 incidents. So that's a good thing. There's been a 29.5% increase in those P3 incidents. And that is very consistent with the hot, dry weather, because what we've seen is a big increase in rural fires, fires in woodlands, that type of thing. The more serious P1, P2 incidents, they have also increased, but by a lot less percentage, 10% and 5.3% respectively. Now, a key target of our CRMP is that all of our emergency incidents will be attended on average within 8 minutes, so 480 seconds. This is from the time the first appliance is mobilised to the time it books in attendance incident. Now, during Q1, the average attendance has been beyond this. We've been at 8 minutes and 23 seconds, so we have been above that target, and it is slower than the same period last year by 28 seconds. Now, this again is because of the hot, dry summer, where the not just the number of firing incidents we've attended, but also their locations. Now, what I have done is I've included appendices in this report, Appendix A and B, which basically show the comparison of the location of those P3 fires, those less significant fires that have significantly increased in Q1. So the maps in Appendix A and B show the comparison between what we have attended in Q1 25-26, which is Appendix A, compared to those P3 fires we attended in Q1 24-25. And you will see from those maps, I think it really indicates quite well the significant number of increase in fires and where their locations are as well. Now, the hashed areas around each station location basically shows their typical turnout area. And you can see from this map that a lot of those incidents are occurring, not surprisingly, in quite rural areas, quite far outside of those typical turnout areas, which obviously take us longer to get to, and it has had that significant impact on our ability to hit that 8-minute target. Now, the increase in average attendance time could have been even more extreme if we hadn't had a very positive result in terms of how quickly crews are turning out from station in Q1. So we have a target for our whole times crews to mobilise from the station within 1 minute and 50 seconds. So that is from the time that the pips go off and they get alerted to an incident to the time the fire engine actually leaves the station. So by the time they've stopped what they're doing, got onto the appliance, got into all their fire kit, got their seatbelts on and gone. Now, we're below the target for that, which is really positive. We target 1 minute 50, we're below that target at 1 minute 46. And similarly for on-call crews. So on-call stations, obviously, the on-call firefighters will be doing their everyday jobs, doing their other activities. They have to travel into the stations, get on the fire appliances before they go out. We target that they achieve that we target that they will be able to achieve that within 6 minutes. And again, they were 19 seconds on average in excess of that. Yes.
So do it, you say from the 'cause I remember asking this last time.
Yeah.
From the pips to the full embarkation. What's the time between the call and the pips?
So we measure things from the point of mobilisation.
Yeah.
So that will be the point that the fire control operative presses the button for the crews to go. There's some further data on here around how long it takes for like
Yes.
call handling and
Okay,
the
sorry.
time it takes. So I will come on to that in
Thank
detail
you.
because we do.
I didn't get that, so I
No,
apologise.
it's absolutely fine. No, it's not a problem. But it is something that is. It's very important that everything aligns. So we need fire control to be performing quickly.
Yeah.
We need the crews to get out the door quickly. So yeah, it all does tie in. But we are coming on to that. So
Sorry, thank you for that.
That's fine. So talking more about the on-call section now. So in April 24, we introduced a dual employment policy because we have approximately a third of our on-call firefighters are also whole-time firefighters for the organisation. They have what we call a dual contract, 2 contracts with us, one in the whole time, one in the on-call. Now what this means is that we in effect employ those firefighters twice. So we have to be very careful around things like the working time directive and firefighter fatigue. So in April 24, we introduced a new policy that limits the amount of cover those dual employees can give on the on-call sections because we have to ensure that they have sufficient rest periods. Now, we were sort of very aware that when we brought this into being, absolutely the right thing to do, but it would have an impact on availability for the on-call. So we target as a service that our on-call availability is 85%, which is nationally very, very high performance. We currently sit in approximately the top 3 or 4 services nationally in terms of our on-call availability. But it has taken a slight hit through the introduction of the dual employment policy, which we knew it would. So in Q4, our on-call availability was actually at 84.2%, so just slightly below the target of 85%. However, that is an improvement on the same period in 24-25. So the first period when we introduced the dual employment policy, our average availability dropped to 82.9%. So we have seen an improvement for the same period in the year. Now, there was a few things that have come into being that assist us with that. One is the work of our on-call support team, who are in place to really go and work out of these locations when we know there is a shortfall. So we have a very small team who do that. And we've also introduced new on-call contract levels in April 2025, which brings a little bit more versatility to what we can offer for our on-call staff and will hopefully over time improve availability because it will help us to recruit and it will help us to retain on-call firefighters. So what we do is we break down our 16 on-call sections to look at them individually around what they're achieving around availability. Now, it is worth noting that the latest national statistics around on-call availability show that on average, on-call sections are available 72% of the time across the United Kingdom. So the fact that on average we're achieving 84.2 is strong performance. What we do then is we look at our 16 stations and we would like, as a minimum, every single one of those sections to be available 70% of the time. Now we achieve that in most cases. In Q1, 13 of our 16 were above the 70% and indeed above the national average of 72%. We have 3 stations where we find it harder to achieve that 70%. Now currently those stations are at Southwell, Harworth and Blideth in Q1. Now Southwell, we will have spoken about Southwell probably every single one of these meetings because it is a challenge to recruit to Southwell. We currently have 10 crew members at Southwell. For comparison, at Hucknall, we have about 20. At Stapleford, we have 21. So it is traditionally a difficult location to recruit to simply because of the demographics of the population that live within 5 minutes of that station. However, the good news there is we are starting a new on-call trainee course in January, and it looks like we will have 4 members joining that course who will be going to Southwell. So we put a lot of effort and emphasis into recruitment for that section. Now the issue at Harworth has been slightly different in Q1. This is due to a slight lack of supervisory management at Harworth at the minute, which is due to long-term sickness. So what we're doing is we're prioritising a place on the next level 1 incident commander course for a recruit from Harwood. So hopefully, again, we will address that issue there. Blydydd, over the last few months, we've been experiencing challenges with daytime cover. And again, this is just due to people's other commitments and primary employment roles. So what we have done there is we've increased the number of dual employed whole-time fighters that we've allowed to take on a dual employed contract at Blydydd to try to overcome some of the issues there. So hopefully over the coming months and reports we will start to see improvements at those stations. So figure 7 actually shows a longer term overview of on-call availability over the last 5 years, and you will see that from the orange line across, actually I bet you're in black and white,
We're in black.
the horizontal line in that chart shows our 85% target, and so you can see in the main 21, 22, 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, we generally hit that target, and you can see where that introduction of the dual employment policy in Q1 has dropped us below that 85%, but hopefully you'll see it is an improving picture as we creep back up towards that 85%. So what we speak about next is around whole-time availability. So whole-time appliances can become unavailable due to a number of reasons. These are for things such as mechanical fault, for servicing, insufficient crewing levels, when we have to replenish contaminated fire kit and equipment, when crews undertake out-of-county training for their maintenance of competence, or indeed for crew welfare after certain incidents and activities. So when an appliance has been taken off the run for certain activities, we don't deem it as being unavailable, because there are occasions when a crew is undertaking, for example, community safety activity, where we will take them off what we call like first call, so they can concentrate their efforts on those activities. However, should we need them, should something happen and we need them, we can very quickly recall them. So the specifics around appliance faults and so on and so like are the times when we really say, well, these appliances really aren't available should we need them. So we have a target that all of our whole-time appliances would be available 98% of the time. In Q1, they've been available 98.3% of the time, so it's above target. Now this includes, at the minute, we have taken appliances off the run or made them unavailable on 32 occasions in Q1 through what we call like degradation, which is when crewing levels have meant that we've had to take an appliance off the run to send those staff to other stations to maintain appliances elsewhere. So that happened 32 times in Q1. We also have targets for our special appliances, so these are things like our aerial ladder platforms, command support units, environmental units. We have a target of 95% availability for those vehicles, and similarly they can become available for similar reasons to the clients. In Q1 they've been available 99.6% of the time, so well above target. Now, a key part of our commitment is to ensure that resources are mobilised to emergency incidents in a timely manner. So this is where we start looking at those control metrics. So the first control metric for our joint control, the first metric we look at is the percentage of 999 calls that are answered within 7 seconds. Now our target for this is 96%. Now figure 8 shows the performance over the last 8 completed quarters, and despite all that increase in call volume that we received in Q1 because of the increase in nearly 25% increase in incidents we attended, they still achieved that target. 96.6% of calls were still answered within 7 seconds, and that actually represents our best performance for a long time, which is pleasing.
And does that sort of link into Jim's question then about?
I hope so.
Yes. So is that helpful?
It's very. I apologise because
No, there's no need to apologise. No.
I've been away from the office for 3 days, and mine's at the office.
Not a problem.
No, it's okay. Don't worry.
Similarly, the second metric for control that we look at is how quickly they can handle that call. So literally how quickly they can take in all the information and press the button for appliances to go. So I think this is particularly what we're talking about. So we look at this in terms of our P1 and P2 incidents, that level of incidents that are most serious for human life and most serious for the environment and heritage and society. Now for this we target that the calls are handled within 86 seconds. That's the target. Now, for quarter one, those calls were handled in 67 seconds, which again is quite impressive with the volume of calls that were being handled at that time. So well above target, and you will see from those last 8 completed quarters, we've hit the target every occasion. Now, the final metric we look at around our joint fire control is around the availability of our mobilisation system. So the system can be classed as unavailable for a variety of reasons, and it sounds catastrophic when you say the system being unavailable, but it's not quite as catastrophic as it seems, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't turn out fire engines. What it often means is, for example, we might have lost connectivity for flexi-duty officer pages. Now, that's not great, but it's not horrendous, because they still get mobilised through a telephone call, for example. So there are a range of things why we would classify it as being unavailable. Now, we work very closely with our current supplier, Sistel, to identify and address any significant faults. And what we target is that our mobilisation system is available 99% of the time. Now, in quarter one, it's been available 99.5%. So again, above that target that we've set. So another sort of pleasing statistic for our joint fire control. And that brings us to the end of the response.
Right.
So, any
Very good.
questions?
Any other questions?
No.
Yeah, Samina then first. and
Yeah,
then-
I mean, I think most of you answered, like, you said, like, there's like a 24.8% increase, isn't it? Obviously, as the weather, obviously, we know that the weather is going to get hotter and hotter.
Yes.
I mean, are we, like, doing something to, like, increase the staff? Obviously, the weather is not going to get better, it's going to get worse in futures. So are we just, like, doing something to have more staff in place for those calls?
Well, we're not. At the minute, it's something we track quite closely, and you will find when I come back next time to talk about quarter two, we've had an increase again. You know, the
Right.
reality is it's been a hot summer, hasn't it? We have an increase.
Yeah.
But we are currently staffed for that. We
Right.
currently have capacity for that level of volume of incidents. So whilst it's something that we do monitor and keep tabs on, at the minute we are confident that we are suitably staffed.
And, there's like a deliberate calls as well, like false calls. Are we doing something to, obviously, like, there's some
Yes,
thing in
absolutely.
place, for those people to be prosecuted or something, so we don't get this.
We do. Now, a lot of the times we classify false calls in a number of ways. Sometimes it's malicious. Now,
I'm talking about the malicious one, obviously.
Over the years, the number of, I don't want to steal Tom's thunder, because I think you're going to talk about some of this. And
I'm not going to talk about malicious calls.
Fine,
I'm happy to. But you're doing so well.
So
Teamwork.
we've
that's
done a
what-
lot of work, I would say, over the last couple of decades around malicious calls, and the volume of malicious calls across the sector, not just in Nottinghamshire, has come down significantly.
Oh, that's great.
And that is due to a range of things, such as call challenging from our control staff. So whereas 20 years ago they would take everything at face value and just mobilise, they now, if they have a call that is suspicious, they challenge it and they will explain the consequences for the caller, and things like that have reduced our number of malicious calls significantly. We classify false alarms in lots of different ways. Sometimes there is good intent behind them. They're a genuine false alarm. It turns out there is no fire, but people did genuinely believe they did. So we do a lot of work, and I know Tom is going to talk more about unwanted fire signals.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Jim.
Mine's more an observation. I take it the calls are like an arm's length organisation, so they will time it.
But our joint fire control.
Yeah.
So it's.
See, if I do a 999, it's do you want fire, police, ambulance?
Yes.
That's the first few seconds gone, yeah?
Yes.
Is it timed from then, or from when you
It's
get it?
timed from when the call comes into the Nottinghamshire Derbyshire control.
Okay.
Yeah, so that 7 second target, for example, is around when our call operators handle it once it's come through to them.
So I just wondered how you linked into the other half of the system, if you know what I mean, if that was part of it.
Yeah, it's not something we monitor.
Yeah.
If I'm honest, I'm sure they will have performance metrics around how quickly that is, and I suspect it's not dissimilar to what we look at in terms of our answering.
But it leads on to the second part of my question, maybe as much for the audience as anything else, because I was always curious. Okay, do you have any problems with language? Suppose you get a customer that isn't coherent, etc. That's going to extend the time, isn't it?
It is. We do. We have a number of systems in place to support that. So, for example, we have a system called Language Line. So, if someone is a non-English speaker, or certainly non-English as first primary language, we have a system that will support that and interpret that language for us. Similarly, if somebody is if somebody is deaf, for example, there is a texting system. So there are a number of systems in place to deal with that. We also have a system called a Pegasus scheme, where we have particularly vulnerable residents who can register to that, and the system will then support a mobilisation to their address should a call come in from that, or indeed a conversation with their carer. Their carers will be logged so they can talk to another person should a call come in to ascertain how serious the nature potentially is. So we do have a number of bits in place that we do test quite regularly as well to check the efficiency and how they operate and work, because obviously they're not used that frequently, so we need to make sure that when they are, people are completely au fait with how they operate.
Yeah, as I said, that's mainly for the audience because it's questions that people ask me when I say I'm on fire safety. They say, "Oh, how does this happen?"
Yes.
And I was thinking with the increase in multiple use of languages in schools, so is there a cost to that? I know that's a finance question. If you just bear with me for a second.
So there is a cost to that. We do pay a subscription for things like language line availability. We do pay into those services so that we have them. I don't know off the top of my head the cost.
No,
but
it's a finance
I can
question.
find out should people wish.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you very much.
Just going back to the deliberate fires, how are we with sort of working with police authority, investigating and...
Yeah, we work very closely and it comes under Tom's portfolio, our fire investigation team. Now we have different levels of fire investigation service, so all of our supervisory managers, so the officers that are in charge of a fire plants, have a level of training around fire investigation and will be able to determine whether something like those P3 fires, whether they deemed to be deliberate.
Yes.
So we've seen an increase in those in Q1 because of the hot, dry weather. You will have typically hear around people having barbecues in the woodland or whatever, and we would deem, potentially some of those could be accidental, some can be deliberate. But we also have a core of what we call level 2 fire investigators. We have a dedicated team, and we also have flexi-duty officers who are trained that way, who will properly investigate the more serious fires where there has been injury or sadly death, or very clear deliberate illegal activity, all the way from investigating with the police CSI teams through to court appearances.
So we keep a close eye on it. Good. Any more questions on that section?
No, thank you.
Right. Thank you, Andy. So on to community safety and engagement. So
Over to Tom.
that's
Thank
Tom.
you.
Yeah, so I will just obviously take you from 2.24. Because of the length of the report, I'm not going to slavishly read every point, but if you have a question, please just ask it, or want me to highlight something, I will. So I'll just guide you through accordingly. So obviously in Q1 the service has completed over 4,000 safe and well visits between obviously in that quarter. I mean, we are on target to achieve our CRMP commitment of 16,000, which is very good news and testament to the performance levels both within response crews and within my team at community safety and engagement. And as a comparison nationally, for the year 24-25, which is the year we have the national data available, NFRS undertook 12.8 safe and well visits per 1,000 population compared to the English average of 10. So we are performing above those national comparators. Within Q1, 49% of these safe and well visits were to those over the age of 65 and 52% were to those who identified as having a disability. And as members, as you're aware, they are key parts of our Charlie profile of how we target vulnerable people. So if I could just move you over the page, unless there's any of those points that I've put them for information, but I'm happy to skip over them. At 2.30, safeguarding obviously remains a key responsibility of NFRS and one of the key parts of the work within my team. And in Q1, when we have a known outcome, all referrals made by the service have been accepted as meeting the threshold for safeguarding, which is testament to the levels of training we're giving our personnel, and so they are making appropriate referrals into those safeguarding services. At 2.31, County Youth Justice Service referrals. So you remember I spoke about this last time. This is the scheme we have set up in order to try to intervene in young people's lives to stop them becoming a first-time entrant into the criminal justice system for specific offences. So in the reporting period of this report, 6 young people have been referred, all of whom were seen within the 28-day target, helping to avoid that outcome for them in terms of driving offences. At 2.32, there's a long list of the events that we have undertaken in quarter one. I'm not going to go through them. The one I want to bring your attention to is the last bullet point, which is that we've upskilled the education team to the National Fire Chiefs Council, working with children and young people in the fire sector level 1 qualification, and we're the first fire and rescue service in the country to deliver this training, so that's a real better look at in that one. At 2.33, obviously the befriending work builds on the relationships built by crews with our diverse local community groups, enables the service to reach more people for our safe and modern visits, promote key safety messages, and to share our employment opportunities. Within quarter one, response crews have recorded 34 engagements as part of their befriending work, so that's something that we'll be focusing on moving forward to increase that number of engagements and make sure we are owning that properly within the community safety engagement team. At 2.34, Safety Zone continues to be a key partnership for the community safety engagement team with partner agencies such as the Police, East Midlands Ambulance Service and Nottingham City Transport. We've updated the risk improvement that is delivered by our community safety engagement personnel to reflect those more modern risks such as lithium-ion batteries. And in quarter one, we delivered Safety Zone from Ashfield Fire Station, which reached 632 children from 12 schools. And the team supported partner events at Newark and Edwinstowe, engaging with significant additional numbers of young people. And post-event evaluation has shown that attending children are retaining the key safety information they receive. And Safety Zone, the next Community Safety Committee meeting, we've continued that work through the year. So it's a really positive and impactful piece of community safety. At 2.35, I'd just like to draw your attention, fire investigations are delivered and managed and coordinated as part of within my team. And in quarter one, 100% of Tier 2 fire investigations were undertaken by Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service personnel against our 90% target. And 82% of weekday Tier 2 investigations were undertaken by the core team against our target of 75%. So obviously that just speaks into Andy's point around the investigation of deliberate fires according to their severity.
So the point is we do take it very seriously and we do as much as we can to...
we take it extremely seriously. So we obviously all deliberate fires or where the outcome is suspected to be deliberate are reported to the police as part of our standard sort of reporting protocols. We also do a lot of partnership work with partner agencies within districts around the liaison between response station managers, my team in prevention, police and neighbourhood inspectors, that sort of thing. So we have that oversight of the risks and what's happening in communities, and that enables us to respond quite effectively to where we see patterns of behaviour or clusters of incidents.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry, yes, Amina.
Yeah, the training for the young people, you said, how could they, how do you advertise this training to the youngster, like level 1? Is it through schools, college, and what is the age range?
So this is training that's been done in our team to help them deliver to young people. So it gives them the...
young people, which age range? Or, they employed by us, or like you target schools or colleges?
No, so we target schools and young people. So yeah, we target schools and intervene in those schools where it's high, we have information around risky behaviours or clusters of incidents.
So it's been delivered in schools, in
we
school?
deliver training in schools, yeah,
right, okay.
And to school children, yeah.
Thank you.
That is essentially a summary of the team's performance for community safety engagement. I have missed quite a few points, but I wanted to put them in there for completeness. But if there's anything you want to ask, then I'm happy to respond.
Okay, very helpful. On the county youth justice, where we've targeted the 6 in this period, 6 people have been referred. How do you think it works? What sort of response, reaction are we getting from these?
So basically,
these
the county youth justice is a magistrate referred scheme. So the individual comes in front of the magistrate. The magistrate has an option to deliver a sentence, or they can refer them into this programme. So if they're referred into us from the magistrate, we then deliver a 3-hour programme on choices, the consequences of choices, how their behaviour impacts the community themselves, future career prospects. And we then report on the individual's attitude, demeanour, willingness to learn and change through their youth worker, which gets reported back to the magistrate. And that goes down very well. We are seeing a good success rate in that in terms of change in behaviour.
Good.
So certainly in the short term.
Yes, because you do wonder if they're going to take it seriously, the fact that they've been referred in the first place, and so they're in effect being given another chance, aren't they?
Yeah. So it's just for specific offences, but obviously they do get that other chance, but they do take it seriously, and obviously they know there's that reporting process back, so we talk to them and we have to report on their behaviour.
And also, I think education is far better than penalty in the first instance. I certainly have experienced that with antisocial behaviour in my ward.
Yeah. Good. And can I just say, well done again to you and to the number of safe and well visits. I know we've mentioned this before in the previous meeting, but we do need to recognise this, because it's phenomenal, the number of visits that you do and the team does, and compared to other authorities as well. It's if you've not done it yet, if you can go on one. I went on one, and it's a real eye opener. And it can highlight other issues, not necessarily fire authority related, but other issues that the household or whoever you're seeing might be experiencing. So
sorry, Richard, is that the safety?
Yeah, the safety. The safety visits. I know the team are very happy to take us out and to go and visit them. So.
Yeah, you did ask us last time if I said, how can we help you? That was one of the areas he asked us to look at. I haven't been out on the ground hardly at all. There's so many committees at the moment. But the one I did go to was, before you even mentioned the scheme, I got a lot of resistance. So maybe explain to us perhaps a little bit more about how we say, look, would you like a fire visit without offending, or without them feeling they're going to be imposed on? Something like that maybe in the future. That's one observation. And the other one, to come back to it, these referrals then, because you sounded like a magistrate there for a minute, these referrals from the magistrates, are they, can they be sort of linked into just ABS, or is it just fire related? If they're...
No, so this particular scheme, in terms of that we are involved in, is relevant driving offences, so it links into our link with the police around antisocial behaviour, so car cruising or inappropriate driving. So at the minute it's driving offences.
Got it. Thank you. Interesting.
It is.
Well done.
Fascinating. It is good. Right, so if there are no more questions on community safety, we'll move on to fire protection.
Yeah.
So is this you again, Tom?
This is me again, yes. Yeah. I'll adopt this same approach, although there's some detail I think you definitely want to hear on this, so I will be going through, but please stop me if you know. So starting at 2.39, so within fire protection, the completion of 1,500 fire safety audits in 25-26 is a CRMP commitment. Within the reporting period of this report, so in Q1, the service has completed 289 fire safety audits. So if this number of audits is repeated across the remaining quarters of the year, then the service will achieve approximately 1,156 audits. So based on that above number, the service, we're not on target to meet our CRMP commitments in that area. However, members can be assured that the highest risk buildings within Nottinghamshire are being inspected within the timeframes outlined in the risk-based inspection programme, ensuring the service continues to prioritise those premises which present the highest risk to the communities of Nottinghamshire. All premises designated as high risk within the risk-based inspection programme will be inspected within the required 2-year timeframe. So just at 2.41, there was a clear and considered business rationale for the reduction in the number of audits against our published target. So through those bullet points, at the minute we have 10 open investigations in the team, an unprecedented level of work in terms of that level of that sort of business activity. And this was not anticipated during the business planning process and target setting cycle in 24-25. At least 7 of these investigations are due to be reviewed by the service barrister with an intention to move to prosecution. This will necessitate significant work within fire protection to conduct investigations, interview concerned parties, build case files and liaise with legal counsel. The remaining 3 premises are currently under prohibition notices that may necessitate the same outcome depending on the actions or inactions of the responsible people at those premises. So each investigation requires a significant amount of work from our fire safety inspectors, and that does have an impact on the number of inspections they can conduct that are highlighted from the risk-based inspection programme. But again, you can be assured that those investigations are against the highest. These premises are presenting the risk to the communities, so that is why we're taking that seriously in terms of prioritising that work. So due to this work, as outlined in the paragraph above, the priority for inspection will be given to premises that are identified within the risk-based inspection programme as high risk. So the predicted shortfall in numbers against our target will be from those premises highlighted as medium risk and below. So within this group, priority will always be given to those premises scoring the highest. So we are always going on a risk-based approach to inspection.
I was going to ask that actually. How do we prioritise and identify?
So the risk-based inspection programme, I have our risk-based inspection programme methodology here. So it's a document I'd be happy to share with you after the meeting, and that gives you a very detailed, as you would expect, and hopefully approve of, how we prioritise these inspections. So, in a nutshell, we assign scores to premises based on a number of factors. So, in line with sector best practice, so that's from the National Fire Chiefs Council, so their methodology for risk prioritisation, previous fires, premises that are under legislation such as COMA, which is the control of major accident hazards, or agricultural sites, the height of buildings, the life risk within those buildings, whether they have a previous fire, whether they have been under enforcement in the past, that bumps their score up. So, condensing something very complicated into very simple terms, which is how I like to think about it. They get a number, and we take the highest number down.
Okay.
And we sub-categorise those numbers into the top X amount will be high risk, then medium, then low. It's absolutely based on risk at all times, and that is how we would prioritise those buildings. So examples might be care homes, for example, schools, because again we talk about societal loss massively, so that is a factor in that. So if this building were, touch wood, to burn down, what would be the impact on society? And obviously something like a school would have a massive impact. High risk residential premises in terms of those that are tall for obvious reasons. Hospitals, care homes, that sort of thing. Again, talks about the number of people inside. Are they ambulant? Do they have disabilities? So it considers, and it's outlined in this document, and I will share that after the meeting.
Great, thank you.
So we are suggesting a revised target for the year of 1,100 audits to ensure that we prioritise those buildings that present the greatest risk, but also enable us to do that work in investigatory practice. And significant departmental work in addition to our audits remains ongoing, and I've summarised that in paragraph 2.43 over the page, which you can see in terms of the number of things. But I will go back to 2.42. And members should be assured that even with an adjustment to the number of fire safety audits as outlined in the previous paragraph, NFRS is still performing significantly above the national average when compared to English fire and rescue services. So again, the last national data available for 24-25 highlighted NFRS undertakes 8.5 fire safety audits per 100 known premises compared to 2 fire safety audits per 100 known premises across England. Mm-hmm. So you can be assured that our performance levels are high, and we will, we look to maintain them.
It's just that we set a high target.
We did set a high target, yeah.
Mm. Which when we come to setting of next year's targets, that will be experience will be considered, won't
it?
To fall more in line with reality. Yeah. Okay.
So moving on to 2.45, the completion of 1,650 business safety checks in 25-26 is another CRMP commitment. So these are the checks undertaken by response crews. Again, outlined within the risk-based inspection programme, so these will be the low-risk premises that previously we would not have inspected because they present a low risk. That is a key commitment. Within the reporting period of this report, we've undertaken 431 business safety checks, which is a 41% increase on the same period last year, and we are on track to achieve our target there. Following these safety checks, there continues to be a significant number of poor outcomes reported by response crews, which have then necessitated the involvement of fire safety inspectors. Again, this is another factor leading into when they're inspecting these low-risk premises, they can't then go and inspect the other ones highlighted on the RBIP. But over the period within this report, 35 premises have been classified as poor, which demonstrates the value of inspecting premises that are categorised as lower risk within the RBIP. And fire safety inspectors within protection continue to work closely with response supervision managers through shadowing visits undertaken as part of the BSc qualification or the Business Safety Check qualification and delivering that qualification to response personnel. And we're currently at 95% of our whole-time watches have at least one supervision manager qualified to undertake unsupervised business safety checks. So a very high percentage personnel who are qualified, and obviously the one remaining watch has been prioritised on that training to get us up to 100%.
Good, thank you. So I suppose it's like any target situation when you have a target, so 1,500, we're going to do 1,100. Initially you think, oh, that's disappointing, we're missing target. No one likes to do that. But when you look at the circumstances and the work that's going on, and the fact that we're still doing 1,100 or more fire inspections, and when you compare us to other authorities around the country, it's best not to beat ourselves up too much about that. I think that's what I'm thinking. So no one likes missing a target, but we're still, the point is you're still delivering an important service to, in this case, over 1,100 cases. So it's
Impressive.
yeah.
And coupled with the investigation work, I think that's the appetite for investigation has been criticised by HMIC nationally.
Yes.
So we are, we always work with responsible people to, it is the last resort. We're not taking these lightly. We always work with responsible people, but we are prioritising those areas where people are not doing the things they should be doing, which will lead to safe communities.
And of course, could highlight other issues going on with that building or organisation or whatever. Because one thing often leads to another, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a comment again. I mean, it's a bit like Ofsted when they come in and give you a rating good. How do you measure, your progress? Because if there's nothing above good, so you do have to keep raising the targets. And so it may look that you slipped a bit this year, but you're probably 4 times higher in your target than you were 4 years before. So over a long period, it's pretty healthy. It's pretty good.
Okay, good. So, thanks, Tom. Reducing demand, is this Andy?
No, it's still Tom. I'm afraid it is all me from here on.
Thanks for coming in, Andy. Anyway, sorry. So reducing demand.
So this now goes on to our false alarms that we've obviously discussed briefly up to this point, and there is another paper that is me after this.
Yes.
Reducing unwanted fire signals.
You're doing wonderfully.
Thank you. It's nice. It's very nice. I know that Andy didn't say that. So at 2.48, so during the reporting period of this report, the service responded to 1,248 false alarm, which is the 2% increase on the same period last year that Andy has already articulated in the service delivery performance report. So false alarms are broken down into those 3 areas, which are the malicious calls, the good intent calls, which we've already discussed, and then false alarm apparatus calls, where these are from a system that highlights a fire or what the system is designed to detect in terms of fire. That then goes to a person who calls the fire service. They don't make any sort of judgment or any sort of investigation. And where that turns out to be a false alarm, that's classified as an unwanted fire signal. So in 24-25, again, NFRS responded to 4.3 unwanted fire signals per 1,000 population, with the national average being the same at 4.3. So this is a national issue in terms of responding to alarms that turn out to be not a fire, and is one that we are constantly looking to decrease because it does have an impact on our resources. So within Q1, the service responded to 720 unwanted fire signals, and of these, 148 were at non-residential premises, with 85 at hospitals and 572 at residential premises. In terms of some of the work, and again, there is the further paper, but following each unwanted fire signal, the premises owner for non-residential premises receives a letter from NFRS outlining their responsibilities in relation to fire safety. After a 4th occurrence, the premises is contacted by the service's business education advocate within our fire protection team, and the 6th occurrence prompts a full audit from the fire safety inspector, so they will go and actually be audited in terms of their fire safety provision. And then just the last paragraph there, in line with this Community Risk Management Plan 25 to 28, the fire protection team is committed to developing ways to reduce the number of unwanted fire signals the service attends by more than the national average. Members will be aware that the trend for an increasing number of attendances to these incidents is a national one and not one confined to this service. And we will continue to work with responsible persons to reduce these incidents and utilise national best practice in their reduction where available. And a separate paper outlining this approach is going to be presented to this committee. Would you like me to stop there, Chair?
Yes. On the unwanted residential figure, 572, when I read that, I think that's quite high. How is it? How do we classify an unwanted call to a residential property when one assumes most of the time someone at home has dialed 999?
Oh no, so this will be an alarm system.
So it is the autumn.
Yeah.
So I hadn't realised there were so many domestic properties with alarms that contact. I mean, we all talk about burglar alarms, but
no. So basically, there's a lot of, and again, due to advances in fire safety legislation, new residential premises will have these alarms being installed
HMO.
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And we will respond to those because it is
So
an
it's that
alarm
type of call,
designed to cause. So it
I
could
think it's
be.
for the vulnerable people, isn't it, or adult?
This is all people. So
Yeah.
this is anyone in these premises will have an alarm fitted. It could be steam from a shower. It could be burning toast.
Yeah.
It could be a faulty alarm system. There's a lot of different reasons for these going off. As an example, we are working with Broxtowe Council. So we've done a lot of work with Broxtowe Council to replace a lot of inappropriately sited smoke alarms and replace them with heat detectors in kitchens. Have a standardised approach to where alarms should be situated, and they have Broxtowe Council have rolled that out across 3,000 residences. So that's the sort of work we're doing to try and reduce these unwanted fire signals. So it's a very, very good piece of work.
Sorry, for the 148 that were non-residential premises, 85 of those were hospitals, which seems quite high.
So hospitals are highest attendance. Again, in terms of societal risk, the risk to life, and the impacts on infrastructure that any fire would have at a hospital. And obviously they have very serious provision of fire safety, so they are alarmed everywhere for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
We have some big hospitals in Nottinghamshire, as you know, and we will attend those sites when the alarm goes off. We have dedicated fire safety inspectors working with these hospitals to reduce false alarms, but there is a balance to be struck between the weight of attack when we get to an alarm. If it turns out to be a fire, we do need resources in place to deal with it, otherwise it will inevitably spread. So there is a balance to be struck there with attending, but we are constantly working with those sites to see how they can reduce their calls on us.
I kind of had a vision of a patient sneaking out to the toilet with a cigarette. You know.
I couldn't possibly say, but that can certainly set off a...
Yes. Right. Moving on then, if there's another point on that, so the joint audit and inspection team.
Yes, so the joint audit and inspection team, the collaboration between the Nottingham City Council and Nottingham Fire and Rescue Service conducted 22 inspections consisting of 7 audits and 15 follow-ups in the period covered within this report. There are 123 premises on the audit list, an increase of 1 from the last report presented to this committee. But the service continues to prioritise the JATE, which is the Joint Audit and Inspection Team, and is working with the City Council to ensure the premises on the audit list are inspected in line with the 2-year timescale in line with our high-risk risk-based inspection programme premises. So those premises have been highlighted in the risk-based inspection programme. They're taken out of the RVIP as a whole, put into the JATE. But because they're high risk, they have the same 2-year inspection frequency. And that enables us to do the joint inspections with environmental health officers who inspect under the Housing Act. And so that continues to be a successful collaboration, and one, again, targeting the highest risk premises in Nottingham.
And again, that reflects the earlier figures we saw about the number of incidents that we respond to in the city compared to the district and the borough. Any comments on that?
No,
All happy? Okay.
So moving on.
Safety.
So, Chair, thank you. So moving on to the Building Safety Regulator, 2.55 and 2.56 are sort of standard paragraphs that will appear in every Community Safety Committee report. But at 2.58, regional reports are received from the East Midlands Building Safety Manager detailing the work undertaken and outlining the time taken for recharge purposes. So this includes a breakdown of the elements the multidisciplinary team is undertaking. Recent work within the building safety regulator function has included 47 sort of in-occupation jobs, which entails the review of a building safety case report, excuse me, and subsequent gap analysis, and 17 building control applications, which are Gateway 2 applications, which are an assessment of a building's compliance against appropriate approved documents. Lastly, 30 building assessment certificate tasks across 16 premises have been completed, and this work has represented 112.5 hours of billable work within Q1. So the BSR obviously has national importance, and it's something that the service continues to support through our fire safety inspectors.
And these are they a mix? They are a mix of commercial, service buildings, and when we talk about building control, do we also include residential?
Yeah, so these are through when builders, planners are submitting plans, it will include those buildings. Yeah, so we will be looking at those plans.
Okay.
And then lastly, you'll be pleased to know on this is just to talk about remediation acceleration plans. Again, we have been fully engaged with East Midlands Combined County Authority in preparation of our remediation acceleration plan. 2.61, the services work closely with the Mayor's Office, and a remediation acceleration plan for the East Midlands has been approved by MHCLG. This has resulted in additional resources for Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service to undertake inspections of buildings with cladding and engage with premises owners across the mayoral area. 2.62, the recruitment for the identified mayoral roles is underway within the department, and these will be appointed to once these processes are finished in line with the submitted plan. So recently we've been undergoing quite a significant investment in fire protection. We're onboarding 9 new people into the department, 3 of which are from the East Midlands Combined County Authority, in recognition of responding to that need that I've just highlighted in the report in terms of our work. So from the remediation acceleration plan, we have 1 fire safety inspector, a fire safety advisor, and a fire safety coordinator. So different levels of role within the department, who we've appointed to 2 of those roles, and we're interviewing in the next 3 or 4 weeks for the 3rd one. So that will be a significant. Whilst those individuals will need training, that is will have a big impact on the team and enable us to deliver that work across Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire for MCA, which is again a significant piece of work taken by the team.
And, yes, I mean that's very much as a result of the Grenfell situation. Jim,
Just a small point that was raised last time. The difference between 18 metres and 11 metres. How did we arrive at these?
So the government has allocated those nominations.
Yeah.
It was 18 originally, and it's been expanded to 11 to 18 because there was some gaps there, I think, in terms of those buildings do still present a risk and do still have cladding.
Absolutely.
So it's just expanding that remit to include those 11 to 18 buildings, which has obviously expanded the level of work that we need to do.
Yeah. So it came from the government rather than from your recommendations. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other points?
No, the only point I'd like to make is, sorry to interrupt, I think it's just the fact that MCA has been based on our G8 model, which is again sort of reinforcing the effectiveness there.
Indeed. So they're learning from us. That's what we're saying.
That's what I like. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Are we charging them?
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't quite work. Right. So, well, we've got the recommendation that we've scrutinised and draw assurance from the performance of service delivery. Are we all happy that we've had quite an in-depth look at this and discussion, and we're reassured? So,
absolutely.
Okay. So, thank you, Tom and Andy, for that. So, we move on to risk-based inspection programme. This is the area for improvement update, and Leila.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So just for background, this is an update report which just covers the one area for improvement that was received from His Majesty's Inspectorate during our last inspection. So again, just for a little bit of context, the average number of areas for improvement issued to fire and rescue services is 17. So just to emphasise the really positive result that we received last time from the Inspectorate. And before I pass over to Tom, just to talk us through the report, just to point out one of the recommendations to the committee is we are recommending that the closure report for this area for improvement goes to the Policy and Strategy Committee in January next year. Now, the rationale behind that is that we're anticipating our next inspection will likely fall in around April time, and we want to be able to demonstrate the assurance around this area for improvement in good time before the inspectors arrive. So it's a sequencing issue with committees rather than us trying to keep the Community Safety Committee out of the loop, if you like. So on that, I'll just pass over to Tom just to run through the meat of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Leila. So just to run you through the report, I will start from the beginning and go through the points because I think they are all pertinent. So the area for improvement identified in the report relates to the inspection, fire protection, and is reported as that the service should assure itself that its risk-based inspection programme prioritises the highest risks and includes proportionate activity to reduce risk. So this AFI is a continuation of the AFI for the risk-based inspection programme given in the 2021 inspection. Whilst the inspectorate acknowledged the work that had been undertaken in this area, they wish to see more embedding and assurance there before the AFI was removed. So as you will all be aware, the risk-based inspection programme is the central methodology governing how the service prioritises its resources to inspect and audit all non-domestic buildings within Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. Prior to the 2024 inspection by the inspectorate, the service had been developing a new approach to the RBIP, which incorporated sector best practice, guidance from national fire standards, information from partner agencies and updated building information. So this approach has now been fully adopted by the service and is directing our resources to those premises which present the greatest risk to the communities of Nottinghamshire. As part of this, managers within fire protection have evaluated the outputs of the approach to ensure that the premises being proposed for inspection are in line with service expectations and our knowledge of risk in the built environment. And that has come out that we are absolutely assured that this is prioritising those highest risks. And we're also addressing this the area for improvement requirement through peer review and an evaluation which is being undertaken by an independent consultant, in this case Nottingham Trent University, to ensure an objective assessment and assurance of the risk-based inspection programme process. Within that assurance report is due for delivery to service in December, and the university are undertaking a full evaluation based on our risk scoring methodology. They have been out with our fire safety inspectors in terms of in-premise visits, so they are fully involved in producing a report that will hopefully show that the RBIP does what it says on the tin. So it is proposed this area for improvement will be fully closed and assured from the receipt of the results of the external evaluation. Recommendations made within the report will be reviewed and reported to members at the January 2026 Policy and Strategy Committee meeting.
Which is good practice anyway, but as Leila explained, because there's potential inspection coming up, it just needs to be kept on the agenda, basically, doesn't it? So on that committee. Right. I had a note here to ask, yes, where am I? This, we touched on this in the previous item, actually, but in paragraph 2.5, where we just explain about looking at premises presenting the greatest risk. I mean, typical examples. I mean, again, would it be your
QMC, for example.
Yeah, so the
care homes, very tall buildings, places where there's other legislation governing the use and management of those sites, like control of major accident hazards, like agricultural schemes which regulate the amount of fertiliser, for example, that can be stored in one site, because obviously that presents a massive risk. Societal risk, like schools, and life risk.
So it's a multitude.
Like I said, I think I will send you this policy and the methodology, and that goes into the, as you would expect, the granular detail. Should you wish to read that.
Nice. Thank you.
And also, just again reminding everyone, not that we're the least bit complacent. I would never want to give that impression, but the fact that in this inspection we had one AFI to follow up, when the average is 17. So well done to all is what we would say on that. So we've got the recommendations and to scrutinise and draw assurance from the report, and we agree a report detailing the outcome of the external risk-based inspection programme evaluation is produced to the Policy and Strategy Committee in January. So are we all happy with that?
Certainly, yes.
Yep, okay, thank you. So that takes us on to the final item, which is the approach to reducing unwanted fire signals.
Certainly.
Tom.
What a surprise.
So obviously within this report, in terms of the background, we've spoken about it quite a lot to this point.
Yes.
I think I'll just draw attention to 1.3 and go from there. The members will be aware from the previous updates that the trend for an increasing number of tenancies to unwanted fire signals is a national one and not one that is confined to Nottinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service. The Community Risk Management Plan 25 to 28 has set an objective to implement new and improved ways to tackle the causes of these incidents, and the goal in the 25-26 annual delivery plan is to develop an updated methodology and strategy to deal with them. So this paper will just provide members with information on the progress of this CRMP objective. So members can be assured that as part of the delivery of our annual delivery, the 25-26 annual delivery plan, the fire protection team are reporting progress on this initiative to the Community Risk Management Plan Assurance Board, which is chaired by the Chief Fire Officer on a monthly basis. So every month I'm scrutinised on the progress of this initiative and how we are doing. Members can also be assured that the current national best practice is being considered within the development of an updated methodology. However, new guidance is also currently being developed by the National Fire Chiefs Council around unwanted fire signals, and this is due for release in 2025-26, but obviously that is something that is beyond our control. At the start of the year within the fire protection team, the business support team were under-resourced following personnel moves and changes, and this included the Fire Safety Advisor post, which plays a key role in working to reduce service mobilisations to unwanted fire signals through the proactive and reactive engagement with business owners. And this role is now filled following a successful recruitment process, so will make a big difference. And so that role deals directly with the things I've just mentioned in the previous report around premises that present, multiple unwanted fire signals to us. That's the premises that the business education advocate is going to see and liaising with. So additional recruitment has also been ongoing within this team. So subject to satisfactory pre-employment checks, an additional fire safety advisor will soon be on board into the service, funded from the East Midlands Combined County Authority's grant funding. So this is the Remediation Acceleration Plan funding that I spoke about in the last report. This role will undertake engagement with responsible persons and residents around all aspects of remediation, fire safety advice and appropriate use and testing of fire alarm systems. So within this delivery year, work is ongoing with the services performance team to further develop performance reporting frameworks and analysis tools to evaluate our attendance at unwanted fire signals, which will provide more robust data to inform the strategy. And it's previously been highlighted that the quality of data and classification of incidents, both internally by operational crews and across fire and rescue services, has led to discrepancies in reporting. So work has been undertaken to refresh the services guidance, train new crew and watch managers, cleanse our data and ensure that consistency. Nationally, representation has been made to the National Fire Chiefs Council regarding this area, and work at that level is ongoing in relation to a national definition of what an unwanted fire signal is. So there has been inevitably across 42 fire and rescue services, there has been discrepancies in how those incidents are recorded, which will lead to differences in comparison between services. At previous committee meetings, members have supported the exploration of charging selected businesses who are repeatedly the causation of unwanted fire signals. The consultation for our Community Risk Management Plan in 2024 also highlighted this was supported by the majority of stakeholder and public respondents. Analysis into the efficacy of introducing charging and or cost recovery mechanisms is ongoing as part of our work in this area. Again, considering national best practice, the approach adopted by other fire and rescue services and learning from services who have been challenged over their approaches with charging businesses. It should be noted the action of charging would only be considered as a last resort if all attempts at engagement and education with the responsible persons had failed, appropriate notice periods had been communicated, and even then only with specific business types. So for example, not schools, domestic premises, hospitals or other high-risk premises. A major consideration of any charging proposal is the unintended behaviours that this promotes from business owners and occupants, such as compromising fire safety measures, which would be against the objective outcomes of introducing such a charging policy. Further research and engagement are ongoing regarding this area prior to presenting any recommendations to members. External stakeholders will be consulted around potential charging arrangements to ensure their feedback is considered when developing any new methodology. Domestic premises with connected systems will be exempt from any consultation, as these systems will not be within any NFRS charging policy. It is proposed that a further report is presented to members in March 2026 that will outline current performance from the measures taken to date, progress against this area, and if relevant, further recommendations to reduce the number of unwanted fire signals attended by the service. And this will include any results from the consultation process discussed in 2.1. And that's the end of the report, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Just wondering on 2.6, where we're talking about discrepancies in reporting. Is it fair to say really that's more of a system, a method
Certainly, yeah.
system issue?
So even internally, and I'm speaking in, I'd be careful because I'm speaking outside of my area of competence now, but where the data warehouse holds all this information,
Yeah.
sometimes there can be a little discrepancy between how many, depending on which system you go in or which route you go into it, the number of unwanted fire signals. It's not massive, but it is different. So those numbers, obviously, we need to make sure they are lined up. And then there are discrepancies just in how different services classify different false alarms.
Yeah, okay. And the reference to last resort charging people, which I think we agree with. I suspect as well another reason for wanting it to be a last resort is the fact that the cost of administering to go through finding an organisation or finding people would probably not be very helpful to our finances. Is that a consideration?
I think that is a very astute point, and I think obviously as well businesses would have a view on being charged and would probably be challenged. I think obviously it's something that is supported by our consultation, supported by members in theory or in principle, but it's I think I mentioned it in one of the previous reports. I think the fire protection team, we always work with responsible people in terms of engagement and education. So it's not something that is at the forefront of that process to reduce attendance at unwanted fire signals. But people will have a view on it. And again, administering any system like that costs money.
Yeah.
And time.
And also you'd find yourself in all sorts of long debates and discussions about cost, a scale of charges. How do you work out how much a particular incident or offence is costing? So I think that's still the right attitude to take. Is very much a last resort. It's a bit like carrot and stick, isn't it, as well? And we want to work
sensible.
Yeah, and we want to work with people as opposed to being seen to be particularly. What's the word I'm looking for? But yes, you know the point I'm making. Right. Okay.
Sorry,
yes.
Quickly, just to come in, just to remind members that the fees and charges work is part of the wider efficiency strategy work, which was presented to last full fire authority.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why this specific area is being considered. I think from a financial responsibility and prudence perspective, it's an option that we need to make available to members for your consideration. And also the thing to point out in terms of the number of unwanted fire signals generally, the impact of attending 5,000 or more calls a year on things like our fuel usage and use of consumables and things like that. So again, from a kind of financial prudence perspective, that there is also a financial driver to reducing unwanted fire signals where we can, as well as also the social impact of those as well.
Good, thank you for that. And
Sorry, if that was one.
No, did
I
you
want to come in at the end.
Oh, at the end. Okay. So no more questions or comments on this then. So we've got the recommendations, just for the record, to scrutinise and draw assurance from the report.
Yep.
And we support the continued work within fire protection in the area. And we agree to receive a further report in March and outlining the progress against the initiative. So if we're all happy with that.
Very happy.
Very
Thank you.
happy, thank you.
Super, thank you. So it is the final item on the main agenda, but Jim, you wanted to come in on something?
Yeah, it's just I zeroed in on the amount of calls because of the weather. Once you get raw, time to response and things like that. where are we at with drones in this force?
Yeah, so we share a drone capability with the police currently. So we do use them. We do use them quite significantly, I would say. I think it's an area that's evolving, and there are some other areas that we are investigating currently around where we could perhaps use them further.
Yeah.
So the capability now is good for example, a building fire, a rural fire, shared with the police. We are starting to look at some other options around potential for example, like an underwater drone potentially, and also a possibly smaller drones that could be used for specific activity. It is slightly early days, and that is something we're going to be looking at in ADP2 in particular. But currently, yes, we have drone capability.
Okay, so my brain was strained towards EMCO with regard to research, because your force, I think, is going to become wider and bigger and deeper. It's going to need more resources. But I did a lot of work in Kosovo with demining with drones, and I can think of a few applications myself that would be of use to you. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, they must have a drone capability, so you've answered that. But there might be some room there for some extra funding and become maybe a lead body on it, because we've got a fantastic mix of rural and city.
Absolutely.
You know, it would be, I mean, it's the centre of the world almost, isn't it, in Nottinghamshire? Yeah, so I'd be really keen in looking into that with you.
I'd love to have a conversation with you about that.
The amount of things that we found, I mean, my son's in Kosovo at the moment, so they know all about drones.
Yeah.
But I was more like the investigative side and the cost savings, and we came up with all sorts of different undergrowth features that a drone could recognise that would tell you there's a mine there without having to go out poking and prodding. But more the response time, I think, for you guys initially in the investigation. So I'd be interested in having a chat one-to-one at some point.
Have an offline chat.
So I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So with that then, we'll draw the meeting to a close. It's just gone 20 past 11, so thank you for that. And don't forget, we've got the Healthy Minds coffee morning, and